The courtroom was silent except for the shuffle of papers and the occasional cough from someone in the gallery. Claire sat across from me, her eyes bright with confidence and a hint of mischief. She had always been sharp, but today, in front of the judge, she carried a smirk that was equal parts arrogance and challenge. She was convinced she had the upper hand in our divorce. Convinced that the prenup she had once dismissed as a mere formality was now nothing more than a speed bump on her path to taking everything. We had married 5 years earlier, and the prenup had been her idea. Or at least that's what she claimed. I had signed it, a quiet agreement drafted to protect both our assets, but at the time, I didn't imagine it would matter. Love seemed enough. Commitment seemed enough. And yet here we were, standing on opposite sides of a courtroom, our vows reduced to cold legal arguments. Claire's lawyer presented her case flawlessly. The prenup is one-sided, she argued, gesturing toward the judge. It was drafted in a way that heavily favors my ex-husband, disregarding any potential contributions I've made to the marriage. We request it be amended to reflect fairness and equitable division. Claire smirked at me, a tiny, knowing curve of her lips that said, "You're powerless." I remained calm. My finger rested lightly on the edge of the document I had brought. A single paragraph that she hadn't read carefully, a paragraph that she assumed was a mere technicality. I'd prepared for this moment meticulously, knowing her confidence would be her undoing. The judge listened attentively, nodding, occasionally scribbling notes. Claire leaned back in her chair, folding her hands, clearly expecting the prenup to be dismissed as archaic and irrelevant. Her smirk only grew. I felt the anger and frustration simmering inside her, but I kept my composure, letting her arrogance settle in her chest like lead. When her lawyer finished, it was my turn. I stood, adjusting my tie, and moved to the front of the courtroom. The judge gave me permission to speak. I held the prenup in my hands, turning it slowly so that the lines of ink caught the light. "Your Honor," I began calmly, "I'd like to draw your attention to a specific paragraph in the prenup that has not been fully addressed." I pointed my finger to the exact line, the one that explicitly covered scenarios of infidelity and attempted manipulation of assets during the marriage. The judge leaned forward, his eyes narrowing slightly. Claire's smirk faltered, imperceptibly at first, then more obviously as she realized what I was about to do. "You see," I continued, "this paragraph clearly states that any attempt to circumvent the agreed terms through deceit, concealment, or bad faith during the marriage voids claims to any additional assets beyond what is explicitly granted in the prenup. It also stipulates that evidence of misconduct, even if discovered during proceedings, can trigger automatic forfeiture of contested assets." I let the silence hang for a moment, allowing the weight of the words to sink in. Claire's hands twitched in her lap. The smirk that had been her shield melted into a look of dawning horror. She glanced at her lawyer, then back at me, finally realizing that her overconfidence had blinded her to the very clause that could, and would, turn the entire case in my favor. The judge cleared his throat. "Mr. Donovan, are you saying that this paragraph specifically nullifies the claims your ex-wife has made regarding equitable division due to her actions?" I nodded, my voice steady. "Exactly, Your Honor. The prenup was designed to protect both parties in good faith. But when one party violates the trust inherent in the marriage, as defined under this clause, they forfeit the right to additional claims. The evidence presented today, combined with this paragraph, makes her requests legally untenable." Claire's lawyer stammered, flipping through pages in a futile attempt to find a loophole. The courtroom was tense. You could hear the collective intake of breath from the audience. Every eye was on her as the realization hit. She had underestimated me, overlooked a single paragraph, and now that oversight threatened to unravel the case she had entered with such confidence. I let my finger rest on the document, the paragraph framed perfectly under the judge's gaze. "I submit, Your Honor, that the terms of this prenup must be upheld as written, and that any claims beyond it, given the documented misconduct, are invalid." The judge nodded slowly, reviewing the section himself. "I see. Given this clause and the evidence provided, it appears that the plaintiff's claims are indeed inconsistent with the agreement signed by both parties. The prenup stands as valid and enforceable." Claire's face went pale. The smirk was gone, replaced by a flash of panic and disbelief. She opened her mouth, but no words came. I could almost feel her trying to reconcile her confidence with the sudden collapse of her plan. She had walked in expecting a victory, expecting to manipulate the system, and now she was left speechless, staring at the single paragraph that had changed everything. I sat back down, keeping my composure as the judge finalized the decision. The room remained quiet except for the rustle of papers and the soft tapping of pens. Claire's lawyer muttered something under his breath, defeated, while she stared at me, her eyes wide, mouth slightly agape. I leaned back in my chair, calm, collected, and satisfied. My finger had done more than just indicate a paragraph. It had shifted the entire balance of power, transforming her overconfidence into silent despair. She realized in that moment that arrogance, combined with ignorance, can be devastating. By the time we left the courtroom, the victory was mine, not just in legal terms, but in quiet vindication. Claire hadn't just been beaten by the law. She had been undone by her own oversight. A reminder that even the smallest detail, a single paragraph, can carry consequences far beyond what anyone anticipates.